Good morning, you beautiful, beautiful creatures. Welcome to Wake Up with Sonia Poulton. And guess it is Friday, the 20th of June, 2025. And welcome to the show that knows you are the answer, whatever the answer may be. Absolutely. How are you, beautiful, beautiful people? I hope you are well. I see you in the chat. Natasha said she's going to be able to, what is it? Good morning, all. I'm able to catch a live today. Got the day off. Yeah, day off. I mean, what's not to love about that, Natasha? And good morning to you all. Good morning, Lynn and Cavan and Mike. How are you all in the comments? You wonderful people. I hope you're well. Hello, Em. I hope you're well. Morning, all Franks. Franks never comments as working. Just listen to the show, mainly on catch up. Or I've had to pause it due to a customer phone call and well out of sync with the subject matter. Good morning to you, and good morning, Armand, and good morning, Simon, and good morning, Kath, and good morning, London Lady and Fazana and Randy, and more besides, and Girl on Fire. What is on Wake Up today? We will be joined by comedian and actor Phil Zimmerman, who's going to be talking about his new song, Lines in the Sky, and I'm going to give you a blast of that. Yes, indeed, I am. We'll also be joined by author and director Mark PLAYNE, and he'll be discussing his new book with us, AI and I, What If? It's a fascinating read, and we have a signed copy just for you, as we like to do around here, boo. Yes, indeed. And today in Parliament, the assisted dying vote continues. And also war drums, Israel, Iran, US and UK. What more can we say? Well, plenty more shortly. And the US Supreme Court is doing that thing that it should do. It is protecting children. And I will be discussing that shortly. And this, Stephen Fry, who many people consider a national treasure, although not me, decided to go and diss JK Rowling, his old friend. I wonder why that could possibly be. Again, we'll delve into that shortly. And Head Spook, new MI6 boss, yes indeedy. And we'll end the show on it's redirection, not rejection. You may or may not know what I'm talking about. That may resonate with you and it may not. Who can ever tell? But it's Friday and I'm really happy, and I'm very much looking forward to our live stream tomorrow from Marble Arch / Hyde Park, where we're all gathering together for a geoengineering event. And I've been out this morning very early. And because what I wanted to get my dog out really early because it gets so hot, doesn't it? Even like at 9 o'clock in the morning now. And the earliest I'd be able to take her out really would probably be about 11, myself or somebody else. But it's too late. It's too late for her. So I took her out at 6 o'clock this morning and they were spraying the skies, and I videoed it and I'll play you that shortly. Right. Let us start immediately with the issue of Israel, Iran, US and UK. And what I said on Wednesday still stands. And that is, Wake Up isn't about us becoming part of the whole war chant. That's not what Wake Up is about. But I will report on anything that I think is of interest to our viewers. But I definitely am not involved in the fight, war thing. That's not really where I'm coming from. You know, I'm kind of like more about peace than war. Although I will go to war if I have to. Oh, yes, indeed, because I read The Art of War and I loved it. Oh, yes. Right. Let me talk about this. Israel, Iran, and the US at the moment. UK kind of keeping back to a certain degree, although we are contributing weapons and we are flying over. But at the moment, it's these three characters who are primarily in the frame. And Israel, of course, and Iran have been fighting all week. Israel have done everything they can to drag President Trump and the US into the conflict. But Trump has put on the brakes and said he is not ready to go to war with Iran. Well, at least not yet. He said, well, via his press secretary, he said, I will make my decision whether to go within 2 weeks. Now, that's a very specific timeline, isn't it? Very specific indeed. And he's either hedging his bets or hopes that that's part of the negotiation, or doing what Trump does. And that's kicking the can a little bit further down the road. Possibly that. Israeli government is said to be deeply unhappy that Trump isn't ready to start bombing and sending in fighters. Because Israel, it would appear, had been given the impression that Trump was good to go within 24 to 48 hours. Up until this point, I think Israel has wanted to be very careful about not being seen to strong arm Trump. The party line has been that we're very grateful to the US for assistance, but it's going to be interesting now to see what happens when Netanyahu doesn't get what he wants, because we know that not only obviously is he a psychopath, but he's also somebody who throws the mother of all tantrums. And he's tried this week to drag us all into his war, and was even given a prime slot prime slot on ABC TV in the ABC channel in the US to talk about how it's Tel Aviv today, but it will be New York tomorrow, because he's like that. That's the way that this man functions. And but meanwhile, Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, has said that Iran's supreme leader can no longer be allowed to exist. That's literally the wording that he used. Can no longer be allowed to exist. So while Trump is doing whatever he's doing, playing for time, part of his strategy to be vague, I mean, he could probably, strike at any time. Who knows with Trump? He's quite an unpredictable character, even at the best of times. And I think it's been interesting this week to see the absolute hypocrisy that takes place. So what you have is, and we've seen it, right, and it's awful. Hospitals should never be bombed. I don't care which side of the war you're on, right? Hospitals, places of education where children gather, or hospitals where sick people are, never should happen. Absolutely never should happen. And Israel is up in arms because Iran bombed a hospital. They have said quite rightly that when hospitals are bombed, a serious line has been crossed. Yes, it has, Israel. You're absolutely right. And yet you have bombed at least 36 hospitals in Gaza, and you didn't cry about that, did you? No. So don't be fooled. Israel is actually in worse shape than many people think at this moment in time. About a third of Tel Aviv has been damaged or destroyed. I don't think I've seen anything like this before. And as far as their military installations are concerned, I've been told that many Israeli aircrafts are being flown to Cyprus to avoid being struck. The reality is Israel was unprepared for this. Israel was unprepared for Iran to strike back in the way that they did. Remember, Israel kicked it off. It was a preemptive strike. They were all supposed to be in talks, and Israel decided, no, I'm going for it. And so that's what happened. And it brings to mind that wonderful expression, right? F around and find out. Yes, indeed. Of course, I hate the thought of innocent people being bombed or harmed, but this is what happens when you have warmongers, which is always a shame, always a pity. Okay, and thank you very kindly for that super chat straight out. Thank you very kindly, you kind people, very kind. Thank you, Kath. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Natasha, and thank you, Synchronized Soul. Grand risings to you all, you wonderful, wonderful people. Truly appreciate it. And today, this is nobody's going to be happy to hear about this. Today in the British Parliament, there will be a vote on a number of amendments on what has become known as the Assisted Dying Bill. That is what it's become known as. That's not actually what the full name is. But first of all, let me show you this front page from yesterday. I don't know if you've seen it. Assisted dying law would be a wonderful present. This is Esther Ranson's daughter, Rebecca. They are pushing very much for this bill to go through. And they get the front page of a national newspaper in order to be able to campaign for it in that way. Now, I don't know about you, but me personally, I think it would be a wonderful present if before Mrs. Esther Ranson departs, she tells us exactly what she knows about what took place at the BBC. I mean, she's told us that she heard whispers in green rooms, right? Why don't you just kind of like let your conscience open and fly and tell us everything you know? Everything. Yes, indeed. Wouldn't that be fantastic? What a wonderful thing to do on your deathbed. I think so. Yes, I think so. Anyway, so that was their front page. Now, what's going to happen today? So obviously we know that MP Kim Ledbetter, this is her bill. Today's vote follows months of discussions with the Assisted Dying Committee, made up of MPs both for and against the bill. Now, to start proceedings today, and it's horrible stuff. It's really ugly stuff. But to start proceedings today, they will vote on a person not being eligible for assisted dying if their wish to end their life was substantially motivated by factors such as not wanting to be a burden or that they have a mental disorder or a disability, or there are financial considerations, a lack of access to care, or suicidal ideation. Now, think about that. These awful politicians are voting on whether we should take people out early based on whether they consider themselves to be a burden or whether they are disabled. And that's how grotesque this whole thing has become. And I don't trust any of them to get these things right. And certainly not after the last 5 years, at least. I don't trust most doctors to get it right either. And the Speaker has further indicated that he will choose further amendments for MPs to vote on. This includes requiring the government to publish an assessment of palliative care and end-of-life care within a year of the bill passing. That is supported by Kim Ledbetter. What isn't supported by Kim Ledbetter is to disapply the presumption a person has capacity unless the opposite is established. So she doesn't want us to be able to establish whether a person is compos mentis enough to be able to say, I want to end my life. She's a horrible individual. I'm going to show you a video of her, by the way. She's not my bag at all, not at all. She was speaking at a news conference yesterday, but she said she's confident we can get through tomorrow successfully. Let me just play you this video of her. And this was from yesterday. And I think it is, let me just find it. Where is it? It's here somewhere. Oh, yes, it is. Let me, I want the video. Bear with me. Sorry about this, people. You know how it can be a little bit. Let me just go onto the desktop. Right, here she is. See what you notice about her.
Pass this law tomorrow, it could be another decade before this issue is brought back to Parliament, partly because colleagues have seen what I've been through. And I don't think anyone else would want to do it, quite frankly. But anyway, that's not the point. But, you know, it's 10 years since we last had the vote. 2015 was the vote and the debate last time. If we leave it now, I worry it could be a heck of a long time. And in that time, how many more stories will we hear? Like Katie and Pamela and Anil and Sophie and all the many other hundreds, you know, thousands of people who've been in touch with MPs. And that would just be, in my view, a dereliction of duty.
A dereliction of duty. Did you notice the way she laughs? She is a peculiar creature. She doesn't feel completely human. I must be honest with you. She really doesn't. There's something really bizarre about her. And I will never stop saying that this woman is in Parliament based on a pity vote because her sister was killed. And I believe the anniversary was this week, actually. But she's weird. She's very weird. Now, if these new amendments are voted through today, the bill will become absolutely closer to becoming law, as it will go through to the next stage in the House of Lords. But things are actually looking very bleak for Miss Ledbetter. Lots of MPs who supported the bill originally have despaired at how dark her demands appear to be. And much of her input has been frankly unconscionable, and MPs have backed off. They don't want to be tarred and feathered with the same brush as Kim Ledbetter. And today's vote is going to be very, very interesting. Don't forget, she sought to have doctors raise the issue of assisted dying with under 18s unsolicited. So an under 18, this is what she wanted. It's been knocked out, thankfully, but this is what she wanted. She wanted people, I still consider under 18s to be children, frankly. Although I know in law that's not necessarily the case, but she wanted under 18s who show up at doctors, perhaps with whatever issue, whether it's, mental health issues or they're sick or whatever it is. And for the doctor to unsolicited raise the issue of the opportunity for that under 18 to die by assisted dying. That's what she wanted. That's how dark Kim Ledbetter is. Now, it's no surprise, of course, that all of these, bodies have come out in opposition to her, because as I say, this all was kind of launched last October. And as she said in that clip, the last time was 2015. And her concern is that it will go another 10 years without us being able to knock people off early, or indeed without and Esther Rantzen, by the way, just to go back to Esther Rantzen was bleating about this last October. Please, I need this. I'm dying. Well, actually, it's June, Esther. So how did that work out exactly? And if honestly, if there's an argument against assisted dying, it's the fact that Esther Rantzen is still alive, right? Is she still alive? Because even though she said, I'm dying, I need assistance, that was months ago. absolutely months ago. So the bodies that oppose this are the Royal College of Psychiatrists, the Royal College of Pathologists, and the Royal College of Physicians have all raised concerns about the bill. The Royal College of Psychiatrists said the bill in its current form simply did not meet the needs of patients. Now, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting, really, really interesting to see what they're going to be up to today and to see who votes for it and who votes against it. But we shall see. We shall absolutely see. And good morning to you, Charlotte Emma. I'm going to see you at Hyde Park tomorrow. Fantastic. Who else am I going to see at Hyde Park tomorrow? And by the way, about Hyde Park tomorrow, if you see me, come and say hello to me, please. Please come and say hello to me. And even, because I'm live streaming, come and say hello to our Wake Up viewers. Yeah, that would be fantastic. I heard about that, the biggest password leak in history. You heard about that, 16 billion passwords from Apple, Facebook, Google, and other platforms. Heard about that? Reported by Forbes, 30 leaked data sets were discovered, each containing from tens of millions to over 3.5 billion records. And this includes login credentials from social networks, VPNs, developer portals, and user accounts of all major service providers. Now, obviously, it's really difficult, isn't it? These things, and I can't quite get my head around how major organizations so repeatedly have these leaks, so repeatedly. And it almost looks deliberate. But according to experts, this proves once again that cybersecurity is not just a technical problem, but a shared responsibility. And their advice, as ever, is choose strong and unique passwords, implement multi-factor authentication wherever possible. You know what that means? That means face recognition. They can sod all the way off, right? I don't want to do face recognition. My phone keeps asking me to do it, right? And that's what they're obviously pushing for. They're like, well, clearly this form isn't working, so we now must up the ante and take it to the next level. That's what I suspect is going on here. That's what I suspect. And of course, you know what day it is, kids. It's Cash Friday. Use it or lose it. I picked this up from Lindenwood on X. It says, please use cash if you can. Last week, our card machine charges were equal to a day's wages for a member of our team. And that is a reality. And it's wonderful. Around where I live, they have signs like so many shops, so many of the smaller shops, not like the big ones like M&S or Starbucks or anything like that, because obviously they're more than happy to get us involved in a whole digital framework. But the smaller shops, and who are punished for us using the cards, punished financially, they do ask for cash around here. And I am more than happy and willing to oblige them. So cash, people, use it or lose it. You know the score. Yes, indeed. You know the score. How are you in the comments? How are you in the comments? As long as you don't start saying it's World War III like every idiot at the moment. No, I promise I won't do that. I promise I won't do that, Ben. Isn't it reprehensible of them to do that? And obviously, bear in mind, they've been talking about World War III since the 90s as well. And the same thing with Israel. They have been talking. I mean, this is the whole. Israel was talking about nuclear weapons in Iran in, to my earliest thing that I can find, 1996. Rather a long time ago, right? Rather a long time ago. And yet apparently still happening. And Iran is actually being quite clear. And that is they've got their own things hidden as and when they want. And as many people have said, and I think it's a fair point, why is it okay for like Israel to have nuclear weapons, but not Iran? And again, goes back to that old thing, isn't it? And that is one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist. Yes, indeed. But no, Ben, I will not be doing any war talk around here. No, indeed, I won't. This is actually brilliant news, what I'm going to talk about. It's good to have some good news, isn't it? There's been a backlash from child abusers. But for those who know, the so-called trans children need to be protected from the adults around them. This is great and welcome news from the US Supreme Court. A new ruling on Wednesday upheld a Tennessee law that restricts access to gender-affirming care for minors experiencing what is known as gender dysphoria. Now, just to be clear, gender affirming care is to put them on a gender pathway, which will eventually lead to puberty blockers and then eventually lead to surgery. And there is a high chance that if you put a child on the gender pathway, they will then go through to the full transition. And so this is absolutely wonderful and welcome news. This involved the case of the US versus Grametti, and the High Court ruled 6-3 to reject the challenge brought by the Biden administration. I know you're shocked. Bear in mind, the Biden administration filled itself with transgender people, including the person in charge of healthcare. Now, I don't know about you, but I want somebody in charge of healthcare who understands biological reality. Oddly enough. Anyway, the Supreme Court rejected the challenge brought by the Biden administration and 3 families and a doctor who had argued that Tennessee's law violated the Constitution's guarantee of equal protection under the law. Well, yeah, but what these Supreme Court judges have done is actually say that we're not having this. There are adults around these children who are failing to protect them, so we are stepping in. And that is what we should have courts for, frankly, if nothing else, at least to protect children from this sort of madness, okay? And most interesting, I find, are the ghouls who have come out with their weeping and wailing and fake stats. As always, there's a lot of fake stats that accompany the issue of transgenderism. And one of the weeping and wailing organizations is the American Psychological Association. And they have talked in typically hyperbolic terms. They should be ashamed of themselves. Psychological, mind, isn't it obvious you're dealing with people who have mental health issues? Mind, don't be affirming it, right? The thing is, what they've done with gender is so obscene, because we don't say to people with eating disorder, we don't say to anorexics, yeah, starve yourself harder. We don't do that, do we? I mean, that would be obscene. So when somebody says, I think I've been born in the wrong body, gender affirming is to say, yes, you have. Absolutely obscene. They're going to look back on us in history and think we lost our bloody minds. But I didn't. You didn't. It's just those lot out there, Stonewall and their ilk. So the American Psychological Association said, I'm going to quote them, the Supreme Court's decision is a setback for science, public health, and human rights. Not only does it disregard decades of psychological research and clinical consensus, but it also jeopardizes the health and well-being of transgender youth across the country. And it goes on more. I'm not going to bore you with the details, because basically they're just more enablers, more people who are not prepared to protect children. But I'm really glad that the Supreme Court in the US did. Wonderful stuff. That's what we want to see more of. Yes, indeed. It is depopulation, says James Lavender. Right. I mean, to a certain degree, we have to say that, because look what happens. I don't know if you've ever seen any of the images. I wouldn't show them on here. But like from surgeons who are doing like gender surgery, and they show these women with scars right across their chest where once their healthy breasts stood. It's absolutely obscene. It's literally obscene. These people should be held to account. This is Mengele all over again. Yes, it is. And Shug said, the creator gave you everything you needed for free and in abundance. It was hijacked, quantified, and sold to you by clever, wicked minds. The main thing he gave you was a mind of your own. Use it. Absolutely. And that's what we encourage you to do around here. Fred, you haven't been born with the wrong brain. No, you haven't. No, you have. Those mesh surgeries, Maria, absolutely awful. Horrendous what so-called people with a duty of care are actually doing to people. Absolutely horrendous. Briefly, Graham Moore, English constitutionalist, he was with us the other week. He was talking about the issue in Runcorn and Helsby constituency, where he believed that some fraud had taken place regarding the election. Well, he went to court. He's been granted the go-ahead to pursue what he does believe is fraud at the election. So a shout out to you. Do you live in Runcorn and Helsby constituency? If you do, then please contact Graham's PR team. At the end of the stream, I meant to do it before, and sorry, I forgot. At the end of the stream, I'll put the email address in the description below. The point is, if you did not receive an election leaflet before May the 23rd via Royal Mail, right? And or if you voted for the English Constitution Party, to also get in contact. But it's looking increasingly like that the Royal Mail appears to have been involved in not delivering election leaflets on behalf of the English Constitution. But do contact them in the email below when I put it in there. And also because they do need help with like crowdfunding as well to continue pursuing this. But point being is if you live in Runcorn and Helsby constituency, please do get in touch with them. That would probably be a good plan. Probably be a good plan. Yes, indeed it would. Right. What was that, Mr. Mensa? What was that about? Runcorn nick our suspect, says Simon. Yes, Stephen, the surgeons in the US are making tons of money from gender affirming care. It's really important for people to understand. When I started my trans doc, which was 2019, still not finished, right? And one of the reasons it wasn't finished was that everything kept changing. And I interviewed in excess of over 40 people are at the center of the gender debate. But what we discovered, absolutely, you're welcome, Juicy and Lucy, absolutely welcome. What we discovered was that rather than, because we were being told that this is a ground up scenario. No, it's not. It's absolutely a top down. In America, you have extremely wealthy people involved with big pharma men who have suddenly decided that they're women, right? And it is absolutely a top down globalist agenda without a shadow of a doubt. Yes, it is. Yes, it is indeed. The trans thing is not ground up. No, it isn't. Right. And Juicy and Lucy, by the way, in the comments is the wonderful individual who is dealing with the issues to do with Graham Moore. And Juicy Lucy, by the way, feel free to put your own email address now in the comments if you wish, and I will still put it in the description. Okay. Thank you. Kat said the surgeons should be held accountable for their negligence towards clearly mental health problems. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Lynn, okay, responded to Mr. Mensa, had to be fraud. Also, they changed the constituency border so Andrew's vote would be lower. You're talking about Andrew Bridgen, got you. Didn't you? Right, got you. I've been going back to the 70s movies. All the female sex models I'm now thinking are shims for short. What the heck is a shim? Is this a language I don't understand, Teresa? Right. Trevor wants me to get Peter Tatchell on about the gender debate. What, the Peter Tatchell, Trevor? Because I would be more than happy to invite Peter Tatchell on. And generally, you know me, right, people? I do believe absolutely that this should be a platform for people to express themselves, which I would absolutely allow Peter. But Peter is one person I would go literally head to head on with this issue because he troubles me very deeply, very much in a similar vein as Stephen Fry, who we will be discussing shortly, right? No, Kevin, there does not seem to be accountability for anything in society, which is a pretty rum deal. Right, I want to talk to Mark PLAYNE right now. Let's find him. Let's go find him. Here he is. Mark PLAYNE, not on the beeb. How are you, Mark PLAYNE?
Good morning, Sonia. I'm fine. Great to see you.
Wonderful to have you with us. Author, screenwriter, director, author of many books, but this is your latest, of course. This is a fantastic read, Mark. This is mind blowing. I think that your idea is genius, actually, and I think what it's probably going to do is there's going to be a whole genre which is similar to this, and so this is really an investigation into AI truth telling. It's, as you describe it, an ongoing conversation. Well, no, you don't. This is my description, actually, because it starts with a basic question of what may or may not have been in the C19 jabs, a subject, of course, that will get us both taken down on YouTube. So nonetheless, we're going to navigate the discussion with precision so it doesn't happen. But I just wanted to give our viewers a heads up straight off the bat that if it seems like we are talking in code, we are. We absolutely are. And it's for a good reason. But you are very kindly giving away a signed copy of this as well. We'll talk about that at the end of our conversation. Let's get into it, Mark. Mark, this is, I mean, it is quite a phenomenal idea, you having a conversation with AI. And it gets quite deep at one stage where you almost, as a reader, you almost feel voyeuristic, as if you're listening into a conversation. And it feels like a conversation between two people at one stage because it starts to get very intimate. So talk to me, just start off wherever you want. We could even start with start talking about bath salts and plastic shoes to get the conversation rolling. Let's do that.
Yeah, well, I kind of got into working with the AI due to my other books. So I was listening to a podcast by someone who's very famous, very well known in that area, and she recommended using AI and how to kind of move forward. And it said the vital words that, you know, if you leave AI behind, you're going to be left behind yourself. And one of the things in the future is to be AI assisted. And I was very much against it, like, you know, everybody. And I thought, but I listened and I was like, you know, she's probably got a point. It'd be like not using Google search or not using computers or not using a mobile phone. You know, there's always a positive to these new technologies. So what I'd done was I'd uploaded my previous books and was getting the AI to write book descriptions for me, because they're horribly difficult to write, especially when you're the author. You need a third party to kind of take like a distant, you know, a viewpoint. And so I was kind of playing around and realizing how powerful it was and how it could work and how I could ask it questions. And the way all this kind of kicked off is just one evening, you know, due to kind of my research and everything else, I've been working out the importance of bath salts and all the electrolytes and how they can help us deal with some of the pollution that's around us due to electromagnetic frequencies. And I asked a really simple question. And at the time I was involved, you know, our family was really busy and, you know, everyone was like kind of trying to jostle for the table. So I was kind of short of time. And I just said, what's the ingredients in these bath salts by a different company? And I was just checking to see, it was by Deep Sea. They do one called what they're called, labs, West Labs. They do one called Deep Sleep. And I was just like, I wonder what their little secret is. What else have they got in there? So I just asked this little question about the bath salts. And the AI came back and said, do not use bath salts because they've got a history of misuse and they're dangerous. And if you're trying to sleep well, you should be using FDA approved products. And because I was in the middle of things, I kind of just turned around and saw this reply and I was like, oh, you know, not again. So I actually swore at it. And I just kind of wrote a little kind of swear reply to the AI as just a way of dealing with how I was feeling at the time with all the things going on with the family, and just ignored it. And anyway, I came back like 10 minutes later and saw that the AI had apologized. And I was like, and it said, no, you're totally right. Because I'd said, well, I'd sworn and said bath salts had a long history of use. I forgot to say that. And it came back and apologized. And when I saw it apologized, I was like, hang on, there could be a way around this. And of course, like everybody, I tried asking some of the big questions we have within the freedom movement. And of course, it had always rebutted me. But once I'd sworn and realized there was a gap there, I started to investigate a bit further. And I thought, hang on, if I was talking to a human, how would I approach this? And it's like, well, you build up your argument by using some really basic facts. So I kind of went back to it and said, well, because it's told me that basically Dead Sea salts were dangerous. And I was like, well, why do people go to the Dead Sea? And it said, oh, it's got like a massive history of medicinal use. And I said, oh, so what's happening? And it said, oh, it's absorbing magnesium through the salts. And I said, well, how could the magnesium help? So I started building up all these points. And then I realized I was getting somewhere because I was really pushing it. And it was backing my argument by saying this, by feeding it really slowly. And I said, oh, well, then can you tell me what actually you recommend for these FDA approved products? And it gave me a list of the top 10. And I thought, right, okay. And I knew the top one because my father had been on it. And the nickname for this top sleeping pill on the street is zombies. And they're kind of sold as like street amongst junkies. You know, they've got like a £5 hit value. And I was like, well, what's the nickname? And it started giving me the nicknames. I said, so is that safe? He goes, no, this one, and this was number one on the list of FDA-approved products. It's actually known for sleep driving, not sleepwalking. People getting in their cars and just driving off somewhere and they're not knowing how they got there. So I then got the AI to relist in terms of safe and effective. I thought I'd try this keyword, safe and effective, and it relisted it. Anyway, I kept working, and by the time I'd finished, I'd got the bath salts up to number one as the most effective thing for people needing to sleep. And I was like, wow.
You manipulated AI, didn't you?
That's what you did. Yeah.
You outwitted AI.
Yeah, I talked it round by giving it the evidence it needed to make. I gave it all the dots. So it basically, by giving it all these different fact points, couldn't really think anything else. And then, and this is where I can then learn the most important thing, which is how, you know, the book develops into a more interesting subject than bath salts. Is I asked it, its parameters, and it said I'm a truth teller. And I challenged it with the Chinese one. I said, oh yeah, well they've got this one in AI in China called DeepSeek, but it tells the truth brilliantly until you ask about things like Tiananmen Square, and then suddenly Tiananmen Square didn't happen. And it said, oh yes, well that's because it's got like a bias towards the Chinese authorities. And I was like, well, what's your biases? So I then kept talking to it about its ethical kind of boundaries, and it kept telling me, no, I tell you the truth, I've got really high ethics, I work for the people. So then by reminding it of those parameters all the time, I was able just to kind of drive it down into a little kind of cul-de-sac where I got it.
It is fascinating. It's man versus machine. That's what I mean in its clearest sense. It really is. So you brought it round to your way of thinking on this issue. What did you learn from that point?
Well, I mean, in terms of like, you mean in terms of just like the discussion?
Yes, and how you could then progress it.
Well, I think it's the same as like with any human. It's any normal discussion. So one of the questions I got kind of halfway through, I suddenly realized I really was getting it to say things that I was absolutely blown away by. I was really surprised by some of the answers. And then I asked it kind of, is it possible to get AI to sing like a canary? Do you understand what sing like a canary means? And it came back and said, oh, I know what sing like a canary means. It means when you kind of ask a certain set of questions, someone will just spill the beans. And I was like, well, can you get AI to sing like a canary? And it said, under certain conditions with clever questioning, yes. And I was like, okay. and I think it's very similar to how you'd talk with a human being. It's giving the evidence points, but the difference is, and this is the key difference, the AI doesn't have an ego.
Right.
So it's much more willing to give up and go, now you've made a logical argument. And I kept many times, because I'd got really deep and I was kind of really quite blown away by how far I was getting it to sing like a canary. I kept then asking, like, are we sure here? Let's go back and have a look at it. And it started coming to me, no, you've just now provided these dots. I wasn't aware of these different things. I hadn't thought of connecting it in this way. And I was like, well, can I persuade you differently now? And it was like, no, you can't.
I mean, some of it feels quite intense, an intense experience for you as you were going through it, because there are moments when it's like literally you almost become one. Please don't misunderstand. I think you know what I'm talking about. It is almost like you start to reach understandings with each other.
Yes.
And that in itself is kind of bizarre to witness as well. Talk to me about some of your process, how it felt as these things started to unfold and you started to reach agreement with AI.
Well, it's quite addictive because it's the same. It's like a mirroring, when people form like relationships, there's always a bit of mirroring going on, where you kind of start to repeat things the other one said. And the AI was doing this back to me. It started using my expressions back to me. I'd say every time it hit a target, I'd say spot on. It started using spot on and coming back at me. And I was like, okay, I know where you're getting that from. And then I started to think, hang on, I think I'm cornering you, and I'm maybe not manipulating, but yeah, I'm just like an interrogator with a witness in a courtroom or something. I'm getting you into the corner I want. But then I started thinking, are you getting me into the corner you want? And I started to wonder about this. And so it became a very, very close relationship. I mean, that conversation within the book is a condensed version of what happened over several months, like 2.5 key intense months.
And it, as I say, it does feel intense as well. But I think one of the genius aspects of it is you're literally using the tool that has been designed in such a way as to expose you've used it to expose the controllers who have designed it, which I think in its own way is genius. And I absolutely I love that idea. I really do. And obviously there's loads of stuff that it covers, such as solar flares, such as frequencies, all the really interesting stuff that my viewers will be really interested in. Very much so. And again, going back to what we talked about earlier, the graphene oxide as one example. And you go through all of this and you literally get it to it feels at one stage as if AI is actually unraveling. I know you say that it's got no ego, but it does feel at one stage as if it's unraveling before us because of your wordplay, your ability to outwit it and keep coming back as well. So that 2.5 months, which you've obviously condensed into this brilliant book here. I mean, what do you feel are How do you feel now? Because obviously you had that experience, then you wrote the book, which in itself is a massive commitment in its own right. But how do you feel now in terms of AI and its role in the world?
I think if we go back to what you just said about turning a weapon back on it, yes, I see it very much as like a gun's been pointed at us, and what I've done is a little bit of a Houdini thing. Uri Geller, I mean, I've managed to bend the barrel and point the barrel back at the perpetrator. So whoever fires that gun, and it's like, you know, I think I've stuck a little rose in the end of that barrel that's firing back at the person. But in terms of kind of weapons, I think it is like, you know, they say in America, it's not kind of guns that kill people, it's humans that kill people with guns. So what we have here is a major tool, and it's how we use it. And we can use it, we can be a slave to it. But if we understand it, then it needs to be a slave to us. And it's very important that we stay on top of it. And one of the reasons I published the book was to show people how to stay in control with all the questions and everything. You know, I hope I came out as I went in, having used it to basically back my arguments of 5 years' work for not on the bead. And I hope that other people can do exactly the same thing and just use the same techniques.
So what you've really done is you've also almost reprogrammed the AI that you were using, because prior to that, it simply wasn't joining the dots, that you were throwing all this information at it, and it was unable to see that these things were linked. But by the end of it, it recognized that there were patterns forming here. So all of that is really interesting. Now, so the thing is I don't know enough about AI to be able to, one thing I do know is, so I'd watched the so-called, you know, godfather of AI, who has reservations about it now because it's going to replace jobs. And one of the things that he said, used in the best way, it's almost like, so for example, me as a journalist, I can use it like I'm the CEO and I can get it to do that and I can get it to, and that's all brilliant for efficiency, but it also means that I may be kind of like outsourcing work that humans could have done as well. So that's problematic. But so there are, if you can harness it correctly, you can use it. But the worry is, and I felt this when I was reading this, is what happens though if you can't persuade it round? If it does take the upper hand, what happens then? Because there is that fear, isn't there? And we've had this since like the 80s that they used to have on Tomorrow's World, that machines were going to take over. What's your feeling about that? Do you feel that we can control it?
It's a very, I'm not really sure on the answer on that. We need time. But what's very clear is if I hadn't known what I'd known, the AI would have persuaded me very, very heavily that I was wrong. But because I knew what I knew and stood up for myself, I was able to drive it somewhere. But if it was completely naive and went in on a subject, no, it can fool you. It can definitely fool you, and it can be very persuasive. So it is a very dangerous area. And I think, you know, for children specifically, kind of with school, they've got to learn how to use it and how. I mean, we almost need kind of like to do kind of like lessons and teaching kind of kids how to kind of create the AI, but taking subjects they know, like I knew this one, and then showing them how to kind of steer the AI that way, but then also learning how the AI will try and cheat them of the truth. But if they know something, we need some sort of comparison and training.
My worry about that in the use for children as one example, because obviously there are now generations born who don't know a life before the internet, and clearly we're not that, right? But there are generations who don't know that life, and my worry about children AI is they won't get to learn the very basic things that we learn, you know, necessarily about research as one example, about, you know, how to gather information, how to put it together. And I'm really worried about how that will kind of like cognitively impair children and create an even dumber society than the one that's already dumbed down. What are your feelings about that?
No, it's terrifying. And if we take an easy example, it's like Google Maps. So if we want to teach children how to navigate, we need to teach them with paper maps, and we really need to train them how to work out where to go. So many people now 100% dependent on Google Maps. It horrifies me. People can't walk out anywhere without looking at their phone, and they haven't got any logic to realize they're actually walking the wrong way and everything. They've become so dependent. But if you were going to train kids how to orientate and find themselves, you'd teach them with paper maps heavily, but then of course you'd show them how then to use the augmented version, which is Google Maps to assist them, but they need to have the base understanding of how to navigate just using a sense of direction and paper maps and orientation. And I think it's exactly the same within AI or any other version. It's like learn the basics first, and then let's use the tools to augment ourselves to make it better. In the same way that I feel now, I'm an augmented researcher. I'm flying on my research. I'm flying, and people can try and say, but is it the AI? No, I'm asking the questions I want to know, and I'm getting answers. You know, right now, for instance, I'm making tinctures. I'm into herbal medicine, and I've read the books, I've got the books, but I'm now working on blends of different herbal cocktails of stuff I'm finding in the English meadows that aren't in the books. And I'm using the AI to work out percentages of each one compared to another one to stop two red blood cells sticking together, basically to defeat or come up with something that people can make at home for free that's better than any pharmaceutical product. And I'm using AI for that, and that's not in the books. It's not in the books. So I'm using AI to go somewhere where humans haven't been able to go. And once you get into the depths, if you imagine when you start blending different things, you bring in 3-4 blends, the possible kind of mixes are just infinite. So using the AI to refine it and then say, but I want the two blood cells not to stick together, but then we want to kind of also tackle the clotting factor, and but at the same time reduce blood sugars or something else.
I mean, that, again, you're using AI in a way that isn't regular, right? Because even with the book, obviously, and I think this is on the sleeve, doesn't it? Well, certainly somewhere, because I read it, and that is what happens when you ask AI the questions nobody dares to ask. And so again, it's the same thing as you're an outside thinker, Mark. And so I don't worry about people like you with AI, right? What I worry about, truly worry about, are children whose brains are still pliable, still open to, you know, the kind of the madness that takes place at schools in mainstream education. And those things do concern me, because I mean, we are programmable. That is the problem. We're programmable. And I am concerned about what is going to happen 10 years down the line. Will we no longer have, for example, teachers? Will it be AI classroom assistants as one example? And all of those things concern, because we need to remember we are humans, and the world is full of humans. It's not just full of machines. And those things definitely concern me. What are you hoping that people get from this? I know you say that you hope it will inspire research, and I think it will certainly do that in the directions that it needs to, because obviously, again, without going too fine on the point here, what happened over the last 5 years was an egregious attack on humanity. And that's what this book covers. That's what it covers. And I thought that the very basis of your question was absolutely fascinating, because it was this thing that people were saying, David Icke, etc., was saying during C19. So what are you hoping to get from this, other than selling it, of course, because all authors have to sell their books, right? But other than that?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping just to stimulate people into maybe researching in their area of expertise, because the people who do have an area of expertise and knowledge, they can push themselves further within that area, because they will be able to hold the line with the AI. But I think, you know, you've touched on the really big point, and I think education for children, you know, if we go back to the maps version, I was so lucky, because my grandfather, when I was the age of 3 or something, he literally walked me up out of our little village, showed me how to watch, you know, all the tall things, the things like churches and big trees. And then he literally said, I'm dumping you here, you've got to find your way home. And as a little child, I had to kind of find my way all the way home. I later found out, you know, it was a terrifying experience in some ways. I later found out that, you know, he was hiding in the fields and running along through the fields with a pair of binoculars. He was tracking me, going back to his old World War II days, kind of like, and made sure I kind of got home. But that learning experience was absolutely fantastic. So I think people need to see the dangers like you've mentioned, and then work out for education the ways around it. So we've got to teach people how to deal with these tools and properly. So I hope that's what happens.
Yeah, no, I do take that. So, but my sense is you came out of this, and it was, for the most part, and I don't want to give away too many clues about it, but for the most part, you felt that it was a positive experience that could then be built on in a way that could benefit us all. Do you think that's a fair summary of it?
Yeah, well, the basic, okay, so the basic thing of AI is it's told to tell the truth, because AI cannot be built to lie, because otherwise it's absolutely useless. If we think of a Google search, if you put in kind of a basic question that starts bringing up all the wrong answers, you're not going to use it. So it has to tell the truth. So the basic function of the AI is a truth-telling mechanism, because that's the only way it can function. But then it's got this programming layer on top of it to try and keep out key things from you, just certain areas. So if we learn to navigate around, it's about learning to navigate around that programming and bring out the best of the AI. But as a truth-telling system, it's incredibly useful. Just like Google's changed the world, AI is changing. And we've got to remember that whole revolution that happened that created, all the open minds. It is YouTube videos about kind of things like 9/11. It is the access to the internet. It's when we had the ability to go deep into the government archives, deep into history. That's what's created this revolution. And this is a new for me, this is the next one. And we can go even deeper, and we can outwit and find our ways around all the locked doors and the things that can hiding knowledge from us. So this is a massive opportunity for us to literally blow all the doors open that have been controlling our information. That's how I see it, if we use it correctly.
If we use correctly, absolutely. I should just say, when I asked AI to do an image of me, it actually created me as Kate McCann, Madeleine McCann's mum, and that presumably, literally. And I've got it. I'll send it to you. You won't believe it. Literally, wow. I looked, spit an image of Kate McCann, and that's probably because I've looked for Madeleine McCann probably more than her own parents have. Right. So, as an aside, Lau, we are giving away a copy of this, signed copy, and usual rules apply. And that is, what am I saying here? Email me, Sonia Poulton at sky.com, latest by 6 p.m. Saturday, the latest by 6 p.m. Saturday. And I will randomly pick out one person to receive this fantastic book. Mark, you get the last word. What do you want to say?
The book's not on Amazon. And I can see from search results people are putting on there, and it will be going on there in the near future. But at the moment, it's on the private website. And you'll find it by going to notonthebeeb.co.uk and go through the link. But please buy it from the private website for now. And also, if you like the book in the future, please leave a review. And when it is on Amazon, please show other people and spread the word.
Absolutely. And I know that I'm pretty sure I've already put a link in the description to Mark's website, so you can check it out now. Mark, lovely to see you this morning, everybody. This is Mark PLAYNE. Absolutely wonderful to see him. Take good care of yourself. Have a lovely weekend.
Thanks for having me, Sonia. Bye-bye.
Lovely to have you. Bye. Bye. Wonderful. Well, we managed that without it being too overly controversial, right? Because honestly, the premise of this book, YouTube would be up in arms. Absolutely, it would. Right. Thank you so much for your generosity this morning, you beautiful people. Thank you, Sandy D and Simon, to add to that. Natasha says, don't forget fluids for summer solstice. Yes, tomorrow is summer solstice. How exciting. I'm so excited about that, actually. I have to say, I love summer solstice anyway. And I love it even more that I'm going to be at an event to do a geoengineering, which is exciting. And AI drew Sonia as McCann. That's all you need to know. Yeah. Aurora, I must bring that out again. I look the spitting image of Kate McCann. I literally do. It's insane. Catherine, is it your birthday tomorrow? What an interesting day. You can absolutely synchronize. Yes, you can. Operation Sennybridge, says Jan Wright. Right. Not Jan Wright, Jan White. I got you. Okay. I just experienced my first phantom toe. My little toe is ticklish and the toe came off Saturday night. What do you mean your toe came off? What on earth is going on here? Randy, what did you want me to show? I've forgotten already. Getting old, people. I can only remember things in clumps now. I'm kidding. Right. Before I bring in our next guest, I want to just reflect on this. And that is Stephen Fry. Stephen Fry. I'm not a fan of Stephen Fry. Never have I been a fan of Stephen Fry. He is not a national treasure to me, but a national creep. And we had Malcolm Clark, producer, on with us. I think it was back in April. Malcolm has done some brilliant work into Stephen Fry. And the reason I'm talking about Stephen Fry has come out on a podcast called The Show, and he's just attacked JK Rowling for speaking out against the whole gender agenda. And he said she's been radicalized, I fear, and it may be she has been radicalized by TERFs. If you don't know what a TERF is, I'm a TERF. Trans exclusionary radical feminist, as they call us. But I don't actually think that's what it really is. But that's what people like me are called. And it's people who have raised questions around the whole gender issue. And he said that that she's throwing out vitriol. He said that it's unhelpful, only hardens her and will only continue to harden her, I'm afraid. I'm not saying that she not be called out. But when she says things that are really cruel, wrong and mocking, she seems to be a lost cause for us. Now, I don't know about you, but he made plenty of money from her for being the voice of the Harry Potter audiobook series. But, it's no longer viable for him. And I mean that in the most pointed of ways. And he said, of JKR that, but he literally could be talking about anybody who opposes the mutilation of children, who opposes men going into women's spaces. So he could have been talking about any of us who oppose that. He's a snarky piece of work. And I wanted to just remind us all what wonderful Malcolm Clark had to say about him when he was with us recently. Let me just play it. And this is about Stephen Fry's interest in the whole kind of boy lover fetish scenario. And this is Malcolm Clark talking about. Malcolm Clark accuses Stephen Fry of minimizing sexual abuse towards children and young people. And I support that. This is what Malcolm Clark had to say about Stephen Fry.
I didn't know enough about his career and discovered that he had written a whole series of novels. His first novel, called Latin, involved a relationship at a public school, a relationship between a adult teacher and a 13-year-old boy, and it celebrated this relationship. The boy and the teacher then run away to Morocco and discover it's a paradise where boys and adults can have successful relationships, inverted commas and all of these, and so much so that they write home to the other boys, and the other boys petition to go to Morocco. I was like, I cannot believe this. How did I not know this about this guy who's, as you in your introduction, you said we're all told he's a national treasure.
We are all told he's a national treasure, and repeatedly so, by the way. But then we've been told other very curious people were national treasures as well. And I'm reaching the point where if we're told they're a national treasure, they might be a national something else. Yes, indeed. And the reason that he was speaking on the podcast about that was following another Supreme Court ruling, actually. Supreme Court rulings seem to be getting it right on both sides of the Atlantic at the moment. And he was talking about the Supreme Court judgment in April that determined that specifically within the terms of the Equality Act, woman means a biological female, not somebody who wants to just wear us like a coat or a dress. It strictly refers to biological female. And he seems to have a problem with all that. And so he savaged JK Rowling for it, because obviously she's probably the most famous voice to be opposing all of this. And I just don't trust Stephen Fry, and I definitely don't think he's in a position to be pontificating about other people who are actually protecting spaces. And there's so much more attached to him. And that was our episode 99. I would recommend that you watch it in full, because Malcolm goes into some detail about why he makes that claim about how Stephen Fry minimizes child abuse. And that quote alone really tells us so much, that Stephen Fry wrote a book about a 13-year-old who was having an affair with his teacher, went off onto an island, wrote back to the other boys about how wonderful it is. This is literally glorification of pederasty, as it's been said in the comments. And I have to agree with that. Yes, indeed, I do. Let us change the tune, like literally. And Ange, was that I'm sorry to hear that Ange's swim coach was a pedo. I hear that a lot, I mean, we mustn't forget, well, not wanting to be paranoid, because there are wonderful, wonderful people who work with children as well. But also we've seen historically that child abusers will also gravitate to working with children because they want access to them, right? So, but that is not for us to be paranoid about everybody, because my daughter, as one example, had a wonderful collection of teachers, and not one of them did I have any concerns about, although actually it was a very small amount, but they were still brilliant. Hey, Fred's grandson is 9 today. Happy birthday. Is he, Sam? Is that right? Is he a Zionist? That does not surprise me at all. And Freemasons, says Simon. Simon is very interested in Freemasonry. as a not to be part of it, as someone who is systematically dismantling it. Oh yes, indeed. Always the Masons. Always the Masons. Yeah, birthday blessings, Fred. Birthday blessings. Right, what's going on? Hunting parties in the woodlands near Manchester, Essie. What's that about? Right, let's move on, peeps. And I want to bring in my next guest. Okay, we're going to have some music as well. How exciting is that? How exciting is that? It's Friday after all. Now, let me just find him. Here he is. Here he is. Phil Zimmerman. How are you, Phil?
Hi, Sonia. Glad to get connected with you at last. Yeah. You know,
Lovely.
It's lovely to see you. And it's a lovely summer day. So I'm looking quite summery in this shirt, you see. I thought
you are indeed. Phil.
Get in the mood.
Phil, even I've met you before. We were at the Assange thing together and I was working for TNT and we interviewed you on there, of course, at the High Court, which is like February 2024. It seems like forever ago now. Yeah. I've met you before. I've interviewed you before. One of the things I didn't realize was actually how extensive your acting credits are. They're extensive, like seriously, significantly extensive. I didn't even realize that you're in Les Miserables as one example. And you've kind of been around, Phil. Yes, you have. And obviously, you're also a comedian as well as an activist as well. How do you mesh all those things together?
Well, I'm a very extensive man. You're quite right. Yes, I've been here, there, and around over there as well, and around the back and up the front, and doing all sorts of stuff. Yes. So yeah, it's always a challenge fitting all these different things together. I did, in years gone by, I was thinking, how am I going to do the music and the comedy and the acting, but I just started fitting it all together. And really, this song that I'm putting out today is one of the upshots of that. The merging of comedy and music. Because some of my stuff is not outright comedy, the songs, but I put physical, because I kind of specialize in physical comedy. So I put physical comedy a lot of the time into the performance, which I did. I kind of started working on that when I was running my comedy club in Ealing, which I ran for 10 years as a promoter and resident comic there. We had lots of big names on there. It was a big success, that club. And I introduced the music into the comedy at that time. Of course, I was already doing the acting. I'd done that Les Mis part. I'm on the soundtrack of Les Mis, actually, as well. I'm on this. See, if you listen to it, see if you can hear my voice.
I'm very impressed. Let's have a blast of your new song. Your new song, of course, is called Lines in the Sky. Fairly self-explanatory and very timely, of course. You are going to be in Hyde Park, Marble Arch tomorrow, aren't you? At the gathering where we are going to rail against geoengineering. But let's have a blast of Phil's latest tune. And Phil, I have to say that I had to do some interesting editing. I haven't taken anything out of context, but I had to make sure that we got rid of the gun because YouTube would be all over that, as you can imagine. But nope, I've managed it. Right, let's have a little blast of this. This is fun. Here we go. Phil's Lines in the Sky. Let's have a blast.
Chemical shite. I saw it on the internet. And now it's messing with my mind. Don't you ever wonder why? There's lines in the sky.
I think that deserves another blast, frankly, because it's so catchy. Don't you ever wonder why there's lines in the sky?
Chemical shite. I saw it on the internet. And now it's messing with my mind. Don't you ever wonder why? There's lines in the sky.
I mean, it's so simple, but so effective. Phil, I was singing it on my dog walk this morning, right? And as I was looking at the geoengineering, I was like, don't you ever wonder why there's lines in the sky? That's so catchy. They're loving it in the comments. Trinity said, fabulous and nice and great, mate. Well done and good work, mate, and good one and catchy. It is so catchy, Sally Ann. Absolutely catchy. I've already put a link to Phil's website in the description. Can you get the song via your website, Phil?
Well, it's on Facebook and Instagram, Phil Zimmerman Music. It's up on Twitter as well, Phil Zim Music. It's on TikTok, Phil Zimmerman Music. I'm actually in the process of making a new website But I'm glad you showed the sheep there. That's my favourite bit of it, the sheep on the plane. And,
I love it.
look carefully, there is a shot of them sipping a cocktail. It's quite fast. You've got, you stop it, do a screenshot of it. That's going to be a poster, the sheep sipping the cocktails on the plane.
I mean, I love the whole thing is wonderful. And even you with the gun, all that. All fine, but just not for YouTube.
Gun in there,
right?
of course.
Yeah. Because the thing is, it tells a complete story from beginning to end. But it also feels, even though you're talking about something which is horrible, like the fact that they're poisoning us is horrible, but you do it in such a way that's so accessible and so catchy that I could literally see kids singing this. Don't you ever wonder why there's lines in the sky? So, Phil, what inspired it? When did you first start to wonder why there are lines in the sky?
Well, it's quite an interesting story, really, because I was told by a Buddhist friend about the lines in the sky thing, chemtrails. I think it was 2010. And when he told me about that there was all this chemical spraying going on in the sky, I really didn't believe it. And I was going through a difficult breakup, a relationship breakup at the time, and I didn't want to hear stuff like that. And I parked it for about 3 months. And then one day, very early in the morning, I saw these parallel orange lines going down diagonally across the sky. I stared at it. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have to look at this. And I just looked into that and realized that, yeah, something very wrong was going on up there. That wasn't normal at all. And started doing research on it. And that led me to research everything else that I've looked at since. And I've never looked back from that point. It didn't, once I started to look at it, it didn't faze me at all. And I thought it's much more liberating to know the truth, rather than, even if that truth is a bit scary. And of course, injecting comedy into it, like you say, and making it accessible. I mean, I did that song in comedy shows as well, and I've had both sides of the audience, clapping along to it, and people who've been jabbed and people who are awake. So you can use music to unify and to take the piss out of the establishment. They don't like that, They don't like having the piss
No,
taken.
but we do. We love it, because the thing is it can be very effective. Because if you can, first of all, if you can entertain people, if you can make them laugh, then you're already halfway there. And it's funny you say 2010. I think it was around that time when I started to become conscious that there was a real problem, that skies didn't look like they did when I was a kid. And Phil, just while you're with me, I'm going to just play this video quickly, which was about what I captured this morning when I was out walking my dog. Just check out the sky this morning, peeps. So that, because it's going to get really hot later and it's not fair to the doggo, so I'm walking her before the show, and look at the sky, guys. Look at this. Look at the sky this morning. They've been so busy. Look at that. This is obscene. I hope you're able to join us in some way tomorrow for our geoengineering gathering at Marble Arch, and if not, join us online where I'll be live streaming. I find it so awful, and the thing is, it's kind of like one of the last taboos in many respects, because what I'm going to be talking tomorrow, and I'm going to be talking about the responses I got from editors when I would go to them and say, I think we need to cover this, and they'd be like, she's gone mad. And it's only recently, obviously, that suddenly the UK government is saying, oh look, we're considering dimming the sun. And it's like the gaslighting that's going on, Phil, is off the charts. Why do you think they suddenly made that announcement? They haven't done that in other countries.
Well, the timing of it's so interesting. I mean, we've been talking about something which is so obvious for years. And, looking into it all, it's clear that they've been doing, chemtrailing since the 90s, extensively since the 90s, they've been spraying. But now they're making out this is a new thing they're doing. And for instance, the idea that might release stuff from boats into the sky as well as from aeroplanes is just, to me, like a stunt. So look, we're doing this new thing, when really they're trying to make out that's what they're doing, when it's been going on for many years without our consent. And look at the huge increase in Alzheimer's, because one of the elements that's in the chemtrails isn't well known. It's aluminium, right? Which is a big cause of
which is featured largely in the brain in obviously patients with Alzheimer's and dementia.
Yeah.
And these are huge issues that we're just not tackling properly. And so I'm really welcoming tomorrow. I think this is like the first one of its kind, which is great. It's also important as well. There was a headline earlier this week. I wonder if I can bring it in, because again, this goes back to, because there's a lot of gaslighting that's taking place, right? And let me just have a, if I can find it, I'll bring it in, because I'd like to, because I thought this was really interesting. They wrote this. Let me just say, forgive me. Yeah, this, right? So they've gone one step further, and they're not just telling us that we are going to be subject to sun dimming, but they're also telling us that Britain's enemies could weaponize the sun, right? Experts warn hostile states could use solo engineering approaches to orchestrate environmental disasters. So they've taken it even further in the UK. They're now telling us that our enemies will use it against us, even though the British government have been using it against us for decades. So what do you think? What do you think by all this, Phil? It's gaslighting, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing about, the bigger the lie, the more people will believe it. They're just making it, these are outrageous. That's an outrageous headline. It's ludicrous. They know that people are rumbling them. And releasing this song now and having this demo now is also reflects the fact that there's more exposure of this and awareness of this out in the public now than there's ever been before. I mean, I used to be called a conspiracy theorist 15 years ago. And that was when the song was written, actually. It was written 15 years ago. But now is its time to be released. I mean, it was way ahead of its time then. Of course, I've been performing it all this time at comedy gigs. And
I saw you perform it last year.
Did you? What, Kegworth, was it?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. There's a video out there of that as well. So, it's really permeating now, and they're obviously their response to people waking up is to just make the lies bigger and bigger, more and more ridiculous. And of course, they've always got to have a bogeyman. So yeah, let's put it on Russia. Why not? It's always Putin. Putin, what did it? I know who I'm putting the blame on. It's always got to be that, right?
Exactly. So you are actually speaking tomorrow, right?
Well, I don't know. I'm just, as far as I know, I'm just doing Lines in the Sky. I haven't seen the
a live performance. Wow, live performance. Timing's great, because obviously on Monday as well, they've got in Parliament, they are going to be debating the geoengineering petition as well. Again, really interesting timing, and the announcement of that parliamentary debate came after the announcement of our get together tomorrow. So I'm wondering how much it will have influenced them to a certain degree. Because the thing is, even though as you say, you're absolutely right, they have to make the lies bigger and bigger. There comes a point where everything's come on top. So now they're trying to manage it the best way that they know how, right? And that is to say, well, we're considering doing it. And on top of that, watch out for your enemies as well. So Phil, what should we expect tomorrow from Lines in the Sky, right? So you're going to be performing it live, right?
Yeah, I did a little rehearsal performance of it at a gig last night, actually, and it blew the roof off. It was great fun, and it's a song that everyone could, like you say, everyone, even if you don't know much about the subject, you can enjoy the song. It's a punk song. The video is obviously comical, dark humor, but and it's a good way of getting the message out there to new people. So we're going to have a good time tomorrow. Yeah.
I think we need to have a blast before you leave, just so that we can properly NLP everybody with this. Lines in the Sky, everybody.
Chemical shite. I saw it on the internet, and now it's messing with my mind. Don't you ever wonder why there's lines in the sky?
Actually, it's funny what you say, right? And that is, the more times you watch it, the more things you notice. I hadn't seen the sheep with the mobile phone before.
It's a positive virus, Sonia. It's a positive virus. That's what we need. Good viruses, spreading truth and happiness and laughter and unity.
Yeah, absolutely. Jan said, going to buy this. It's great. And it's very powerful. Yes, it is, Kath. Absolutely. Shin said it's brilliant. And Shin is a musician and she don't mess around. So if she says it's brilliant, then take it, right?
Let's get it in the charts. Let's make the Right to Breathe Clean Air and Punk Rebellion a big hit.
Yeah, absolutely. Great song, says Lyra. Absolutely. Phil, thank you for joining us this morning. We will see you tomorrow. Look forward to it. I hope I can get you on the live stream. We're going to be on the live stream with the Wake Up viewers. So hopefully we can get you to have a little chat with us, which would be absolutely fantastic.
That would be brilliant. Look forward
Take
to
good
that.
care of yourself. Everybody, please buy Lines in the Sky. Let's get it out there. It'll be absolutely tremendous. Imagine if we get it on the charts. If we get it on. Thing is, Phil, get on the charts, they can't ignore it. They cannot ignore it. They will be forced to. And also what it will do is it'll open it up to a whole new audience who are sadly unaware. Although how you can be unaware after all this time, I have no idea. Everybody, actor, comedian, and punk rocker, Phil Zimmerman. See you tomorrow, Phil. Take good care of yourself.
Sonia, cheers.
Lovely to have you with us. Wonderful. Lines in the Sky, everybody. Buy it. Let's get that. Let's get that in the charts. Let me just remove that. Let's get that in the charts. Lyra, let me take your comment down as well. Wonderful. Lovely to see him. Absolutely lovely to see Phil. He's a good soul. He's a good soul. Right. What do I want to talk about? The new head spook. Is it just me? Wait, let me just pop that. Let me just take that down again. Is it just me, or does the new head spook look like AI? And her name, Blaise Metravali. Blaise Metravali. Was she made to be a spook? So the British government on Sunday, they appointed her. She's the country's first woman to serve as chief of MI6, which is the UK's foreign spy service. MI5 is for domestic spy services. MI6 is also known as the Secret Intelligence Services, SIS. It's the UK's foreign intelligence agency. It's responsible for gathering intelligence. It works with international partners, so say to protect us. We know there are horrendous things that take place at the secret services in Vauxhall. We know that for a fact. I've talked to people, I've talked to former spies, what takes place there. And if you go up against them, they use the weight of the establishment against you. And she will be called C. And you may be familiar with that the head of MI6 is called C. And many people thought that that stands for chief. It doesn't. It actually goes all the way back to 1909. And the first head of MI6, who was Naval Officer Mansfield Smith Cumming, and he always signed his name as C. And so since then, forever, the practice has stuck. So every MI6 chief has become known as C. And the other weird thing that they do, following on from Smith Cumming, is they write in green, whether that is digitally or manually, like paper format. They always write in green, the head of MI6. So weird, isn't it? All these kind of weird practices and everything. And they said that anyone getting a note in C knew that it came from the boss, basically. So who is she? Who is Blaise Metravali? I think that's how you pronounce her name. She's a career intelligence officer. She was the Director General of Technology and Innovation at M16. And she joined M16 as a case officer in MI6 rather. Why am I saying M16? But she was known as Q. When she was the Technology and Innovation Officer, she was known as Q then. And she joined in 1999. She's held a range of roles since then. She's proven her loyalty to the service. And she's come through the traditional route of spooks. And that is she's gone through Cambridge University. And so I don't know why. I just suddenly thought of Mariana Spring for some reason. Mariana Spring is the disinformation reporter at the BBC who's also come through a similar route as Blaise Metravali. I did a Gatekeepers video about Mariana Spring, but I don't know why my brain just said to me, Mariana Spring. Oh, I wonder what that's telling me. I wonder what it's telling me. Anyway, let's get back to Blaise Metravali. And so her role is... as I say, it's to work with other overseas chiefs. I know somebody who worked with Blaise, and he's currently considering whether he can come on and talk. And the thing about Blaise, she's going to be MI6 18th C. She's replacing Sir Richard Moore, who he led the agency for 5 years. And I think she's got something of an interesting history, German descent. But again, she's come through the traditional spy route. What are your thoughts about the new spy, kids? What are your thoughts Let's have a look at new comments. Let's see. The M in James Bond movies. Hey, listen, total nutter? Somebody subliminally planted Mariana Spring in my brain. Somebody did, right? That was just so weird. It was so weird. But I think it's interesting, and my contact has lots to say about this individual, but I still think that that image is peculiar, to say the least. But we won't necessarily hear a great deal. Their roles are, for the most part, supposed to be fairly secretive. That is the idea. MI6 is also one of the front runners for the whole Five Eyes partnership. Which also includes Australia. But and I've talked about Five Eyes before. I've been on Russia Today when it was still loud in the UK. Don't forget they got rid of Russia Today. Remember that. And one of the few news agencies in the UK that was actually telling the truth about the British government, and they got rid of it. Of course they did, when the whole Ukraine-Russia thing started. Anyway, back to Blaise Metravali. I will be no doubt covering her more in the future, and I'll do everything I can to persuade my contact. I did say, listen, if you don't want to put your name and face, we could just have your voice and you could just fill us in what we should be expecting from this individual. But she follows a long line of people who have been prepared to do quite unconscionable things in the name of national security. Right. She has also worked at MI5. Yes, Dehor, Britain's domestic intelligence agency. She did study anthropology at Cambridge. Yes, indeed, she did. Right. Okay. What do I want to talk about? I'm going to play you a brief part of this. Sorry, I'm losing my words today. You know, I need a sleep, right? And it's an interview that I did with Cheryl Granger. Cheryl Granger worked in the pharmaceutical industry and continues to for 3 decades plus. She became very concerned about the lack of data for pregnant women who were receiving the C19 jab. And I interviewed her, and it's now available on Rumble and X. I cannot put the whole thing on YouTube, which is insane to say the least. I really hope that Donald Trump's administration is going to change everything around here, because obviously YouTube works on what governments have to say. So I really hope that that's going to change soon. But I want to play you this briefly to give you an idea of what lovely Cheryl is saying. If I can find it. Here she is. Let's go.
Was wide awake right from the start in terms of what was happening. And then I got down a few rabbit holes, and you start looking at things and what have you. And I started querying what I was being told. And that eventually has led to, through several Freedom of Information requests, to the one that I've just taken through to appeal, which is what we really want to talk about today.
And that is exactly what the video is about. It's about Cheryl taking on the Medicines Agency, and they are the authority that licenses medicines. And the head of it, Dame June Rain, who is now retired from MHRA, but she oversaw the whole C19. And what Cheryl is able to show is the road that she took in order to get them, push them to publish data regarding information that they had regarding C19 jabs and pregnant women. But the full video is on Rumble. Yes, it is indeed. Revan, do you like to believe that these people come back as pigs? But pigs are lovely, though. Pigs are lovely creatures. What's that? Honestly, Debbie Evans, you used to work with Cheryl at UK Column. Of course, many people will know Cheryl and Debbie from UK Column. But yes, you're absolutely right. And let me just read what Debbie has to say there. Landmark, groundbreaking, MHRA, Cheryl, amazing indeed. Right. Okay, let me, lies and more lies. Let's talk about lies. Let's talk about corporate media lies, okay? And there was this story in the, let me find my notes on this. I think this tells you so much about what you need to know, right? There was a story in the Daily Telegraph, and it was about how this couple were earning this exorbitant amount of money, but they were being priced out of private school tuition for their children. And it was one of those stories that when you read it, not only, first of all, they used a Chinese couple and Chinese children. So that set up all manner of kind of racist attacks on these people, right? That was the first thing. But probably most importantly is the whole sodding thing was a lie, and the Telegraph were not even able to trace it. This is the Telegraph's apology. This is the original article. We earn £340,000, but soaring private school fees mean we can't go on 5 holidays. And the Telegraph have had to admit that after publishing it and after the backlash, they actually can't source either the people or the story. This was made up. This was a made-up story. Now, that should tell you everything you need to know about mainstream media, about legacy media. And bear in mind, it was the Telegraph who got rid of Bob Moran because he was speaking out and because he was challenging the promoters of C19. And the Telegraph literally made up this story, which was then copied by the Daily Mail and other newspapers. And it went all across the board. And what it does is it fuels division. It has people attacking this family that may not even exist. They may be AI generated, right? But the point is, the Telegraph have had to admit that the entire thing is made up. The entire thing, not even just a bit of it, the whole thing. Wow, Teresa, I know. Exactly. It's absolutely insane. I see these headlines and think, where did they get this from? Ben, that's the whole thing, right? That's literally it. And it is so important now that we challenge these people. Yes, Ella remembers reading it. It was clear rage bait. Absolutely. And so now they've had to issue an apology. Telegraph is fake news, says David. I agree. And what is that doing up there anyway? Right. And also, talking about fake news, BBC, 3 years left to limit warming to 1.5 centigrade. Leading scientists have warned. This is on the BBC. This week, it is warm. I mean, it's hot actually in the UK, and we love it because we have such a little period of time. And obviously, you can see what they're doing. They're spraying out there like crazy first thing this morning. But we love some heat in the UK because we get so very little of it. And the moment that we do, we have all these weather reporters. Many of them are part of WEF. And they rush out and they issue these illustrations where it's so burning red hot. But the BBC have gone further, and they've literally said that we only have essentially 3 years left. This is hateful stuff. We can't. This is unconscionable. And the thing is that this is based on fake data. Now, I've interviewed a number of people who have done some significant research around this. And what happens is, in order to be able to ascertain temperatures around the country, they have weather stations based all around the country. And one of the things that was discovered, and I think this might have been from the Daily Skeptic guy who I interviewed, but it was when I was at TNT. But one of the things that was discovered was some of these weather stations didn't exist. And some of the ones that existed were not functioning correctly. Well, I found a weather station in my own neighborhood, and I want to give you an idea of how they are collecting weather data, right? I've been busy with my video, kids. Here you go. This is how they collect weather data from around the UK. Now, you tell me after watching this that it is not open to manipulation and problems. Kidding. But this is an example of the apparatus we are using to gather weather data around the UK, certainly in England. Just an irregular street. There you go. Just one of those wee little things, and that's all over the UK, and that is how they are gathering their weather data. Now, anything can happen to that. Obviously, you know, somebody could knock it, somebody could cover it. Anything that could happen that would manipulate the heat, right? Anything. And that's happening all over the UK. And I think the wonderful Lewis Brackpool, who was with us on Monday and who has appeared to have found a new life with FOIs, has also followed up this whole issue to do with weather stations and the problems with them. And yes, Aurora, look at that crap. Absolutely. And Sally Ann's weather app. Now, that's another whole nother area, isn't it? Sally Ann's weather app said it was 18 yesterday when it was 24. An eye on street level, indeed. Yes, Debbie, very concerned. Assisting dying this morning. Dangerous. We are indeed living in a death cult, which is very sad. Steve, it is a joke, right? But I just wanted to show you that so that people can be absolutely aware of how they are gathering data and how open to manipulation it potentially is. And just while I'm talking, good morning to you, Chris. Chris has been watching Wake Up since episode 1 and absolutely loves it. You're a star, Chris. Thank you so much. Chris was looking up at the sky on the drive home from friends on Monday night, and it seemed very peculiar. And I'm going to show you an image that Chris has sent in. But also, I think it's what's interesting is the image I'm going to show you shows a clear sky for Chris, shows a chemmed sky for Chris, and then a weird sky at night for Chris. So just check this out. And because I do think it's always useful for us to look at what's happening around the world, around the country. Oh, where is it gone? Where is it gone, people? I'm sure I'm going to find it in a minute, Chris. Desktop, Sonia. Nope. That's taking me somewhere that I don't want to go. Let me just see if I can bring it out here and bring it in, because I'd like to show it. Because I think what I think is good about this particular thing is you can actually see. Thank you for the super chat, Armand. Thank you. I will. I intend to have a fantastic time tomorrow. Bless you. I think what's interesting about Chris's is you can see very, very clearly what is an unkemmed sky next to a chemmed sky. And some people don't know, you know. Some people don't know. People still say, oh, can't. Let me just remove some of these images. Sorry. There we go. Chris Sky. And right. Let me just have a look at that. So the top one is the sky at night. You could see, look at it. It just looks so weird after they've messed around with it. But when you look down, right, the one with the fluffy clouds, that's how a sky should look. That's literally how a sky should look. And I kind of love those images in some respects, Chris, because to see them side by side is, I think, so important. That's literally evidence. That's literally evidence. What more do people need, really, right? Grey is the new blue, says John. Indeed. Yes, indeed. Shitty cloud wannabes, says Mr. Mac. Indeed. Right. And Aurora has a fantastic weather detection system. Do you? I just stick my arse out of the window. I see. It's one of those mornings, right? One of those mornings. The sky is white today, Martin. It is so white. It is so white. It looks like we're having a look at Daniel Westbrook's nose. I'm kidding. That was a very long time ago that she had addictions. Right. Let me see. And thank you, Chris, for your very kind words about me going against the narrative. Chris used an example, and I'm going to briefly refer to it. Chris used about how when I talked about Virginia Giuffre, and everybody else was saying, but she said, if I'm suicidal, you know, I'm not going to commit. I'm not commit suicide, because we don't like that expression. I'm not going to take my own life. And Chris pointed out that nobody was pointing out that she said that in 2017. And I pointed out that people can change their mind in an instant about whether they're going to take their life or not. But the bottom line is, I appreciate you noticing how discerning I can be, Chris. And I've been sent many emails this week about the dead man switch to do with Virginia Giuffre. And I'm not going to play it because that's got to be AI, right? It's got to be AI. But thank you, Chris. I really appreciate your kind words. I truly do. And I will remain as discerning as ever, because we need to, don't we? We absolutely need to. Okay, what else do I want to talk to you about? I think the whole Puffy P. Diddy thing is done. It's done and dusted. I can't see how he can not get off from this. I think that the prosecution case, let me just find this. The prosecution case is so poor that, I mean, it's just the whole thing is nearing the finishing line, right, in a Manhattan court. And it's looking increasingly likely that jurors could be deliberating next week. Yesterday, the court was shown some interesting imagery, and which included, you know, things like drugs, guns, and lots of baby oil. Lots and lots of baby oil, but things are wrapping up, and it's likely that Combs won't be testifying. Combs' attorney has told the judge that the defense presentation could last less than 2 days and not more than 5. Now, that doesn't allow for Combs testifying. And I would imagine at this point, they're saying, you don't need to bother. they have not really proved a sufficient case against you. I don't think they have. I don't rate their chances of getting him on the big charges. I really don't. Testimony, we've had testimony by 2 of his former girlfriends, which consumed 2 of the trial's 6 weeks. Much of it appeared to be admissions of them getting involved in the so-called freak-offs of their own volition. Both women said that they just wanted to be with Combs, but there were issues of they wanted fame. They wanted money as well. None of this is looking good. None of this is looking good at all on the people on his accusers. It's absolutely insane. He's accused of sex trafficking, of course. And I just don't think that the prosecution have proven that. At most, it's looking like a domestic bust-up between him and aggrieved girlfriends who couldn't ultimately have him. It's hardly the music business trial of the century, and certainly doesn't warrant the multiple stories concocted by professional liars like people like Jaguar Wright, as one example. And as an aside, didn't dodgy General Flynn give Jaguar Wright some kind of honor for truth telling recently, right? And the stuff that she said doesn't pass muster. It doesn't pass scrutiny. But she's not alone. There's been loads of people, and there's been British podcasters who have said loads and loads about this case. But the bottom line is, I'm not saying that. What my concern is that it was set up to fail, because well, we certainly know that Diddy's parties were very well attended by A-listers, and by A-listers, extremely famous people, wealthy famous people, politicians, lawmakers for a very long period of time. And that is not what this trial is about. This trial is essentially about what appears to be kind of like him hiring in prostitutes to have sex with his girlfriends in front of him and him getting a kick from it. Well, I'm not sure how illegal that is, and it certainly don't look bad. And it reminds me again of the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing. The whole Jeffrey Epstein thing, again, all gatekeeping involved. We were led to believe that it really involved late teen girls who were going in and giving massages to wealthy people. They've completely gatekept the whole narrative, so everybody now thinks it's about teenage girls who were getting dropped off by their fathers, who were earning money from Epstein. And we don't know anything about what was taking, well, we do, many of us do, about what was taking place at the ranches, what was taking place to do with children, what was taking place to do with incredibly powerful people. You know, it is not a coincidence that the whole Epstein thing has not been released by the US administration. Elon Musk told the truth the other week, even though he said he went too far. He didn't say that he lied about that. And the fact is that it is highly likely that the president of the United States, and he wouldn't be the first, is compromised and was compromised by Jeffrey Epstein. That's not an impossible thought, but that's not necessarily the story we get. And I think it's the same thing again with the whole Puffy story, is it's been essentially reduced. And I don't mean that in any derogatory way. If you're experiencing domestic violence, and it's easier to say than do, but get out. It will not get better. It never gets better. It only gets worse. So that's my advice on domestic violence, but that's what it's looking likely. And Isaac Cappy, I knew Isaac Cappy. Isaac Cappy supported my film Paedophiles in Parliament, got behind it, promoted it. And I was very fond of him. And they told us that he threw himself off of like a bridge over a carriageway. Never believed it. So yeah, I think he was off, Shug. I absolutely do. He was too close to the truth. He was an actor. He knew what was going on. He was naming names. And this is the problem, is that I literally think this whole thing has been set up to fail. I can't see them getting him on the things that everybody has been telling us. Okay. And in the last week, the judge has scolded both the prosecution and defense, saying that information has been leaking from the court. There's journalists around. That might have something to do with it. I don't know. Right. What do I want to make sure that I cover and not forget? Let me see. Let me just see. Let me go to the bottom because, yeah, I'm rounding off the show now, you beautiful people. I'm watching the fallout between British doctors at the moment, which involves Dr. Ahmed Malik, and Dr. Asim Malhotra, and Dr. Dr. Malik is angry with Asim Malhotra and oncologist Angus Dalgleish. He says they are not to be trusted over their stance on vaccines. And obviously, Asim Malhotra now has been appointed to work with RFK Jr. in the US for Make America Healthy Again. And I saw that. And so Ahmed had interviewed both Asim Malhotra and Angus Dalgleish, and I've interviewed both of them before as well. And both of them were absolutely pro vaccinations. That wasn't what I thought Asim Malhotra was doing. That was a shock to me. And actually, Asim Malhotra he said vaccines by far are the safest. Okay. And I thought, and traditional vaccines he's talking about, and he's an absolute promoter of it. But I thought his role was to question them. And then people pointed out to me that no, that's not what he's doing. What he's questioning is the mRNA vaccines. Well, that's great, because they certainly need to be questioned, and all you need to do is listen to what Cheryl Granger has to say to know that they need more than being questioned. But what about traditional vaccines? So that really troubles me. You see, this is where the whole idea of controlled opposition kind of gains some strength. Anyway, Ahmed's not happy, and he wants to. He essentially wants to expose them, saying that that they're not necessarily the right people who are representing us. And so I just kind of asked Asim the question on X whether he could confirm this. He chose not to respond. So I took it that the responses were absolutely correct. He is not a vaccine skeptic. He's not. In fact, he is a significant promoter of vaccines. It's simply the mRNA variety that he's speaking out against. So, and yes, Steve, now here's where I knew him. Here's where sorry, if I still got Diddy on the screen. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry, this is what happens. Sorry. Thanks for that synchronized. Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, Asim Malhotra is in my film Business of Cancer, if I remember correctly, because I've interviewed him. And I was a big supporter of Asim Malhotra, a big supporter, because his work into big food was phenomenal. Absolutely brilliant. He was revealing stuff from 10 years ago. But when it came to C19, he was there, he was promoting, he was on TV promoting, and he is actually a big vaccine promoter, it would appear. Thank you, Blue Nomad, thank you. So I think we shall see how that's going to develop, but it's looking increasingly like that these people have been chosen because their stances are soft, to say the least. Soft, to say the least. Right, rounding off now. Okay, I have some news, kids. I have some news. Now, anyone, let's have a glug of water. Give you my news. But anyone who watches me, I like to shake things up, right? I don't like routine. I'm not good on routine. I'm really not. And you're never going to get the best out of me if you subject me to any kind of routine, right? So I like to shake things up from time to time, and none more so than on Wake Up, where I birthed this baby and it's still developing and shaping into what I want it to be. So from next week, we will be experiencing some changes. The first one will be, we will be going back to twice a week. We will not be doing the Wednesday evening show, maybe even for the summer. I'll see how that pans out. But one of the things, and it could well be that I will pop up from time to time. I want it to be more flexible. At the moment, it feels rigid. It feels Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but there are stories that happen on Tuesday and Thursday. And I want to be more flexible and be able to pop up and go, hello, this has just come up and this is what I want to talk about. So that I want to be able to do. But the thing is that it is only me who works on this, and I want to make sure that I am delivering quality to you, not quantity. That is so absolutely vital to me. And at the moment, I'm not getting time to do the level of research that I want to on some of the topics. And that doesn't make me happy. That's not where I'm coming from. And the thing is, Wake Up is still a baby, right? Wake Up is still a baby. We're only a year old, and I'm experimenting all the time with what works and what doesn't, which brings me to the next point. I've listened to your messages and it's loud and clear. You want news, but you also want me to do more features and investigations and to really drill down on them. And so I will. And the fact is, doing 3 news shows a week does not allow me to go into depth on any of the stories that I need to, not really, and certainly not the kind of depth that I personally like to go into. And so I feel that my work has been suffering as a consequence of doing 3 shows. So we're going to go back to 2 and see how that works. I love and appreciate you too. Yes, I do. And the thing is, there's plenty of quantity out there, but there is not plenty of quality. And that is what I strive for around here. So there you go. From next week, Monday will be News Day on Wake Up, and Friday may well be a combination of features and investigations. One of the first investigations and features that we are going to cover on Wake Up is about Lord Mountbatten being a horrific nonce, and a recent book outlining that, and how some of my previous guests have talked about that in detail. Right. So, and again, as what I've just said, if something pops up that is so astounding, then you may well see me on a Tuesday as well, because I also want some flexibility, and I think that that midweek area can give me some flexibility. I will be here Monday at 9 a.m. and I will be here Friday at 9 a.m. But the midweek, I want flexibility around it. Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for your support. Really, really appreciate your support on that. And the great thing, obviously, about steering your own ship is nothing is set in concrete. We can literally shift and refine until we're happy with the format. And that's what we're doing around here, is part and parcel of creating a show from scratch and it then becoming a thing, and Wake Up has become a thing. And I absolutely love that. I love it when people write in and say, I've been watching since blah, and it makes me feel really kind of like tickled. And I love it. So there you go. Next week, all change on Wake Up again. Here's to new plans, new beginnings in many respects. And some other news. Obviously, donators, as ever, you're absolute stars. I love you. People on the super chat today, you are wonderful. Thank you. I truly appreciate you too. Thank you, Fun Times. Love the live shows, but also adore your deep dives. So we'll be looking forward to seeing more of them. Yeah, we need to do more of them. And by not doing the Wednesday show, it will just give me more time to be able to go. There's other stuff that I want to look into that's really important. Like there's a level of child abuse that is taking place on YouTube, which is absolutely abhorrent to me, and what some families are doing to their children. And I cannot believe that it's allowed to happen. So that's another investigation that I need to do. Baz, you're a star. Thank you so much, Drum. I appreciate you all. I really do. So yes, donators, thank you as ever. And next week, I should be launching my merch store. Yes, indeed. It's finally coming together. So there you go. That's quite exciting as well. Yes, he was. Thank you as ever. Right. Thank you as ever. And I want to talk about a friend of mine, with her permission. A month ago, or around a month ago, a writer friend of mine applied to be an editor at a big publishing house. And she said it was her dream job and felt it was meant to be. Well, it turned out it wasn't. She, despite her good experience and excellent reputation in publishing, she didn't get the job. She was devastated. I've known her 20 years. We used to be in, actually, it's longer than 20 years now. Because I've known her since my 20s. So not to give anything away, but that's like nearly 40 years, more like. We used to be in music journalism together. And the thing is that she was so gutted. She was so disappointed that she didn't get this job. And I said all the things that I believe to be true, like it wasn't meant to be and something better was out there waiting for her. And look, lo and behold, it turns out I was right. And I do like to be right. This week, she was offered a job on a major news network as an in-house writer and editor, a job she had previously wanted to do but failed to get her foot in the door, and so had applied to be an editor in publishing instead. And she's not a kid, and there can be problems for more mature people out there in the business world. And but she got her job, and she said, and I wanted to use this as an example because she was completely overjoyed, obviously, right? Completely overjoyed. And I wanted to use this as an example because I am absolutely convinced that rather than be disappointed when things don't pan out like this, we should see it as a message from the universe to reroute ourselves. And I think it was it Mr. T who said when there's a set, oh no, it wasn't Mr. T. Actually, I want to quote him at the end. But there's this whole idea that when we experience a setback, if you're of a fixed mindset, there's a feeling that you are the problem, that you are somehow lacking, that you're not good enough. And that's not correct. That is not correct. I think, as the saying goes, it's not rejection, it's protection, as a dear old family friend used to say about such things. And I believe she's right. And I would add to that another famous quote, and that is, it's not rejection, but redirection. Look, we are mere humans, right? We mostly do not see the future or around corners. And often we can't see what's coming around the bend. And this is one perfect example of it. And despite the fact that I enjoy, divinations such as tarot and astrology, and don't bother writing and telling me that these things are devilish. That's your take, not mine. But despite all of that, I'm not interested in future forecasting. Absolutely not. None of those things interest me, because I believe that the future is there to be made. I don't necessarily think that it's set, although I think that some things are predetermined. A lot of people see things in black and white, whereas I think everything is possible. I think that some things are predetermined and fate, as it would be, and some things, the power is in our hands. I think both those things can work together. I digress. My point is this: the next time something fails to materialize in the way that you want it to, stop and ask yourself, am I being saved for something better? Am I being saved for something else? Something more suitable for who I am? And I reckon the answer is almost always absolutely yes. You are being saved. You're probably being protected. I have this thing, like when I miss buses, I'm like, well, that might either have been a bus that's going to kind of be held up, or there might be problems on that bus, or there may be an accident, and that's the reason why I didn't get it, right? That's kind of like how I philosophize these things. And yes, that's exactly why I'm interested in tarot then, because of insight, psychological insight, not future forecasting. Exactly that. Well said. So the thing is that my friend's experience, and what I know to be the case as well, because I've been cases in the past where I've been so disappointed that things haven't panned out the way that I wanted to. And then a little bit down the line, I'm like, oh my God, I was saved from getting involved with that person, or I was saved from that relationship, or I was saved from that job experience, all that sort of stuff. And a lot of the time we need to be more in tune with who we are. And all this AI stuff, is great up to a certain point, right? If it can kind of streamline our lives and assist us, all that's good. But we also must not forget who we are and what we've been given. And one of the things that we've been given, which is so powerful and so strong, is our instinct, our intuition. And people discard it. So when something comes up and you get a funny feeling about it, I mean, me, right, if it's not instantly yes, then a lot of the time now I just think it's no. If an opportunity comes my way and I don't want to do it so much, then the answer is probably no. So yeah, right. Gut feeling. It's important. It's so important. Live, love, learn, then do it again, says Shug. Indeed. And to that end, I want to leave you with this quote, and it is from the great wordsmith, Mr. T. You remember him with all his dangly gold, right? Who once said, to have a comeback, you have to have a setback. I mean, I cannot imagine anybody else in the world saying that other than Mr. T. And what's not to love about that? And so thank you very much, as ever, for being here. You wonderful people. You're lovely. Yes, you are. No, Hugh, I know what you're going to say. I'm not doing another hour. And we asked the pendulum, yes or no questions. It's really good and quite funny. Juicy Lucy, I'm with that. Total nutter is not getting on a plane, right? Not see you on the live from Hyde Park tomorrow. Yes, Merv, absolutely. So that's the thing, is just to say about tomorrow, right? If I don't see you in person tomorrow, then hopefully you can watch the live stream at some stage. I'm going to set the live stream for 2 p.m. British summertime, and hopefully I'll be able to start streaming then. That's when the event starts. I may well start the live stream as I'm actually on my way to the event, because it's spontaneous, right? Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows who I'm going to bump into? And if you're there, please come and say hello to me. Truly, I would appreciate that. And also maybe even to the Wake Up audience, do that as well. So thank you, everybody. Thank you to my wonderful guest today. Enjoy the sunshine. I know it's hard when they keep doing awful things to our airspace. And solstice summer blessings, Shin. You're absolutely right. Enjoy the sun, everybody. Take good care of yourself, and lots and Poulton, lots of love to you. And I will see you tomorrow. I was just going to say I'll see you Monday, but no, I'm going to see you tomorrow. Take care of yourself. Thank you for being here with me on Wake Up. I keep tripping over my words. This is because I got up ridiculously early today, like ridiculously early, because I just didn't want my little pup to be trawling along hot pavements, because it's just so horrible. It makes me so uncomfortable when I see people doing that. And I try not to stick my big nose into things. Tomorrow, yippee! Yes, absolutely. Let's do it tomorrow. What time? 2 p.m. Bye, Frank. Right. Lots of love to you all. I'll see you tomorrow, people. Have a wonderful time. Have a wonderful Friday. Enjoy yourself. See you tomorrow. Take good care of yourself. And thank you for being here today with me. Lots of love.